first win, Mr. Jeff Carter. And his opponent, who's had his share of wins, from Roseboro, North Carolina. He's three-time Player of the Year, several-time World Champion, Mr. EARL Strickland.
Okay, this is ACCUSTATS Video Productions. Mark Wilson speaking with Grady Mathews, and we have a terrific match today. We have Jeff Carter versus EARL Strickland. A couple of explosive offensive talents, as well as volatile personalities. Could be an interesting match, huh, Grady?
I think it's going to be a great match, as befits the final day of any major event, Mark. I think we're going to really see championship 9-ball here.
Well, Earl's won the lag, and both these players are fairly high-strung individuals. First match of the day for them. Maybe start off a little slow, but I look to see a couple of flurries of rack runs.
I think so, too. Jeff is a rather unemotional player. We'll see maybe even some minor outbursts, nothing negative, of course, from EARL Strickland. And I think they play, they have conflicting styles. I think it's going to be quite an interesting match.
Well, Earl won the lag and broke, failed to pocket a ball, and left Jeff a straight-in shot on the one with the opportunity to draw first blood.
And the first game, we cannot overstress the importance of it. A lot of times it sets the tone for the whole match. I think it's going to be real important for Jeff to settle down and get this first run out under his belt.
If you were to analyze the break between both these players, both possess terrific breaks, who would you favor?
Well, I'd give EARL Strickland a slight edge with the break. EARL has one of the top 2 or 3 breaks in the world, and Jeff, while he may be in the top 10, I don't think he has quite as good a break as EARL.
How do you feel about the player's offensive capabilities?
Well, again, I would give a slight shot-making edge to EARL Strickland. In position play, I think Jeff's a better position player than EARL. Jeff plays terrific straight pool. He's a methodical player. I don't think Jeff's going to make many unforced errors.
On Jeff's side of the ledger, what would you favor in his game versus EARL?
Well, I like Jeff's safety thinking, Mark. Jeff is, he's got good shot selection. If he's faced with a tough shot and a reasonable safety, he will invariably elect to take the safety. And a lot of times that's just good pocket billiards. That wins a lot of games and a lot of matches.
Yeah, if I was to have to make a comment about it, I think Jeff's overall billiard knowledge might surpass that of EARL's. EARL's more of an offensive-minded player, and Jeff studies the game.
He sure does. He works hard to correct his mistakes, and he's always trying to learn something new. And meanwhile, Jeff's made an unforced error the very first game, and that's something I'm sure he had hoped to avoid.
Well, EARL got off to the first game, and his first break wasn't his best break anyway. I think we'll see him start to really pop the balls. I noticed yesterday he was making balls on the break all the time and controlling the cue ball well.
Well, one thing Jeff absolutely has to avoid, Mark, is the long early lead, the patented EARL Strickland go-ahead, runaway type of match. You correct me if I'm wrong. I've been watching EARL play ever since he started playing in tournaments, and it seems to me that in at least 60% of his wins, the matches are runaways, and Jeff's got to avoid that at all costs.
Well, he hit the rack pretty solid, but scratched in the side pocket, giving Jeff another opportunity.
And notice, too, Mark, for the second time, EARL failed to pocket a ball on the break. You think that might say something about the how this match is going to go?
Well, it certainly favored Jeff if EARL didn't have the break and run out capability in the match. You know, Jeff's overall game is terrific, and he is ranked number 10 in the world, and justifiably so. On occasion, he has a mental lapse where sometimes he just lets the cue ball get totally away from him, and that's what happened in that very first rack.
Well, the players have been complaining here all week long that the rails have been bouncy or springy, and I think that's what might have happened. It didn't look to me like he struck that shot all that hard, and he just went about three feet, I guess, too far. Certainly he needs to bear down and get out here. He doesn't want to let this match get out of hand. I would also, I think it's worthy of mention, I'd give Jeff a pretty decided edge in the area of attitude. Jeff is really a fighter. He's a great come-from-behind player. He never gives up. And I really believe that Jeff wins more come-from-behind matches than Earl.
You know, anytime you start your first match of the day, just getting the first few balls off the table kind of establish yourself into the match and into the rhythm of the game and in the heat of battle, that's a big edge, even if you sometimes don't run out the whole rack, but get some balls off and get your arm loosened up.
That's true. I can't tell you how many matches I've watched with the world's greatest players. In the first game, you might even see them both miss 2 or 3 times. That didn't happen here because Earl played the 3-9 combination. But certainly that's very important to kind of erase the pregame jitters. It's the last day of the tournament. It's obviously a very important match. Not only is it monetarily better, but it provides the opportunity to advance.
Now, Jeff's lining up a pretty difficult combination on the 9 here, and I'm sure he's going to be aware of where the cue ball is going to end up should the 9 not go in the pocket.
I was surprised to see him do this here, Mark. It looked to me like the 2 would go in the far right-hand corner or the side pocket by where the cue ball is. I'm surprised we didn't see him play position to pocket the 2 ball. I guess maybe the reason he did that, the 8 was a problem too, being tied up on the 9.
And he wanted to make sure he made that 1 ball. He didn't want to take a big angle or have to hit it over really hard. He wanted to get that first ball in the hole.
Well, he's got to be careful he doesn't scratch in the far left corner off of the 4 ball if he hits this with a high ball, unless I'm seeing the angle incorrectly. Tough shot here.
Looks like he's going to hit it pretty hard. He's got a long bridge. Yeah, he did.
And kind of a lethargic start on Jeff's part. Exactly what I'm sure he wanted to avoid. The 5-8 is the only possible problem with this rack. It doesn't look like the combination is quite on. Earl would have to, can you tell from where you are if the billiard is on?
Well, Earl sized it up, and he didn't spend a whole lot of time looking at it. He keeps looking back to it. That's the only indicator I really have, because our angle's not real good to see just what'll happen, but it must be something positive there, because he's not spending a lot of time deliberating over it.
No, I think the billiard must be on. Otherwise, he would have taken more time and tried to get a decent angle on the 4 to maybe go into him. And as we've talked about before, all of these great players play 2 shots ahead. They just want to know, like if they're shooting the 1 ball, where do I get on the 2 to be able to get on the 3? And Earl has snookered himself here, Mark. I'm very surprised at that.
Yeah, he overhit that. And, once again, I think in an effort to make sure he made the ball, he swung the cue a little harder in an effort to keep it going real straight. Now Joe Kerr's coming out on the floor to help make a call here. Looks like a half masse, which it is. And he did make the billiard shot that you suggested, but he didn't come up with the best position.
No, this is a tough shot, and if he shoots in the left-hand corner, the 9 could come into play. Also the side pocket. If he shoots it in the right-hand corner, it's really a tough shot.
Not only from the pocketing standpoint, but from the position of it.
You know, one strength Earl has, Mark, on this type of shot, well, he's not going to do it here, but if he does have to elevate the cue, he has the most accuracy of any of the modern-day players.
When you think of his elevated cue shots, you think of his jump shots, of course, but I think the fundamentals that Earl employs is what aids him in making elevated cue shots. His hand is usually up pretty well on the wrap, so his hand is very close to the front end of the cue, gives him more tip control.
Okay, now this shouldn't be much of a problem with Jeff, although he's going to have to use a little inside English, and anytime you do that, it's slightly unnatural. Sometimes the ball will skid. It's a little harder to pocket the ball with that English. You know, Mark, since we started doing these commentaries, that is about the 80th ball that we've seen professional players miss, hitting it on the thick side. When you shoot easy and you've got a little cut, you must overcut that ball a little bit. Look at this. I don't believe this. Well, we may see the patented Earl Strickland jump shot.
You're absolutely right.
Got amazing accuracy on this kind of shot, too.
And a little bit of luck here.
You know, that seems to happen, though, Mark, after a great opportunity is missed. I don't consider that really lucky on, well, it's lucky on Earl's part. I don't consider it unlucky on Jeff's part. He had ample opportunity to win the game and didn't capitalize on it, and that's when that type of roll seems to develop.
So Earl takes an early 2-0 lead, and as though, although he hasn't made a ball on the break yet, I look for him to start putting those racks together. And Jeff's got to be concerned about that at this point, because just as you described, he doesn't want to get way behind early in the match.
I'm surprised at Jeff. I thought that he would go into this match just playing well right from the beginning, and he hasn't. He's got kind of the pregame doldrums, and maybe from this juncture he'll snap out of that. Okay, he's going to be snookered here, and for the third time, at least Jeff is going to get to come to the table after an Earl Strickland break, and that's something to be thankful for in itself.
Earl's rolling out, pushing the cue ball to the end rail, limiting what Jeff can do as far as cueing the cue ball.
Mark, what do you think about this? I believe that exactly I would have passed the shot too under the present conditions. Now, if Jeff had a couple of games under his belt where he had made runouts and shot quite a number of balls and achieved a little confidence, perhaps he would have elected to take the shot. I think he made the right decision here.
Well, it's certainly a borderline call. Frequently when you put a player up there that's forced to shoot the ball, he approaches it with a little better attitude than the man that has the option of whether he wants to shoot it or not.
I believe this shot's a little easier with the 2-0 cushion, though. I really do.
Yeah?
I believe it's easier to make than being behind a couple of games.
Earl's taking his time on this, so that's something we don't see very often.
Well, here we're going to see the elevation mark that we talked about a few minutes ago. Great accuracy with that shot.
Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that a great shot?
Terrific shot. Anytime you elevate the cue, you have to be ever so careful that you don't accidentally get just a little smidgen of English on the cue ball. Otherwise, you've massayed the ball down there.
Well, it's hard to elevate the cue and hit it as easy as Earl hit that shot, too. He hit it just hard enough to get the job done, to force the cue ball over to the side rail and out.
An excellent elevated cue shot, but now Earl's obtained a difficult angle. He doesn't seem totally happy about it. Gonna have to shoot a long combination or possibly cross over the 5 ball and make a bank shot.
Well, I'm kind of surprised that he played this particular position. This is a hard shot. That 7 ball, if I'm not mistaken, is a ½ inch off the rail, and it's not really a big ball. It's better if it's a 1/4 of an inch, and he shot the shot that you suggested. That's really, maybe an 80% free shot, meaning he either makes it or doesn't leave anything. The only way you really sell out there is if the ball happens to jaw and hang up in the pocket.
Or you overcut it or hit it too thick and have the object ball hit the end rail. But with these type players, they can make that shot and make it a relatively free shot, an opportunity to make the ball. And if they fail to make it, obtain a safety.
Well, Earl's hesitating here for something. He's not happy with something. I don't know if a spectator bothered him or it was something else. At any rate, it looks like, barring the unpredictable, he's going to go ahead 3-0, and Jeff Carter's going to really have his work cut out for him. But as we talked about earlier, Jeff, one of the great come-from-behind players in the sport. In fact, didn't he win a match last night where he was down about 6 games to 1? I believe he did.
Yeah. Jeff's a very determined player, and he's going to need to get a couple more opportunities from Earl. Earl takes a 3-0 lead.
Well, he's been fortunate enough to at least get to come to the table on all 3 of Earl's previous breaks. I don't think that's going to continue.
No, I
Earl's
know
going to
that.
start to break the balls well. Maybe his muscles weren't loosened up as much as he would like for them to have been, and I think we're going to see him start crushing these balls, and Jeff's going to have to come to life, or this match is going to turn into a rout.
Well, both these players have lost one match, so there's a lot at stake, certainly. Whoever loses this match will be out of the tournament.
Well, it's 3 out of 4 breaks that Earl has failed to pocket a ball, and that's rather unusual for this high-powered player.
Well, Jeff's looking at a rollout situation.
I wouldn't be unhappy with that, Mark. I don't know how you feel. Just to know that you're going to get to come to the table, it's a lot better than watching a guy make 2 or 3 balls in the break and have a good shot to begin with.
And like Earl, he's pushed the cue ball to the end rail, limiting the cueing possibilities on the cue ball, and also leaving a very difficult shot. Looks like Jeff may have rolled out for a safe here.
I think if Earl tells him to shoot this again, that Jeff's going to bank the 1 ball to the end rail and put the cue ball behind the 3. But Earl's safety game has improved a lot too, and I think he'll see that shot.
Have to be careful about the possibility of possibly scratching off the back of the 3 on that type of a shot too.
That's true. He hit that a little thinner than he meant to, and he's let Jeff see the 1. If Jeff can, I think he'll bank the 1 out of there and try not to hit the 5 and just stick the cue ball on the 8th. That's a relatively high percentage safety and a good one. And I think noteworthy is the fact that the pros, whenever possible, try to leave the cue ball frozen or as close to an object ball as possible. They don't really want a snooker where the cue ball is quite a distance behind the object ball, because these good professional players will kick in a lot of balls, or they'll kick the ball safe. Now, he's made a great shot here.
Yeah, he made a stop shot, and anytime that you can get that cue ball very near another object ball, that limits the kick opportunity. If there's any interference on one of the few remaining paths to the object ball, then you obtain the ideal snooker where you're probably going to achieve ball in hand for yourself.
Now, Earl, not a system player, Mark. He estimates everything just by instinct and eye. And for not being a system player, he's probably as good a kick shooter as I've ever seen.
Well, Jeff's obtained ball in hand with that terrific safety that he played. And something that can't be overemphasized to anybody that's listening, trying to pick up a pointer or two, is that the stop shot was employed there by Jeff from fairly long range. And that's one of the biggest weapons we have is for position play. Not only for safety, but for running out the balls. When you can totally control the cue ball with a stop shot, very few things can go awry.
That's true, or a safety for that matter. Notice that Jeff just found absolutely the simplest way to play that safety. All he had to do was shoot the 1 ball straight ahead and stop the cue ball, and it looks like that's probably going to be a game winner. And I think that's a trademark of these modern-day professionals, Mark. They don't do anything fancy. They do just enough to get the job done. I think that's real important. Now, what do you think he's going to do here? He's got to either go between the 5 and 8. I think he'll try to go to around the 8. I think he'll try to hit just before the side pocket.
The nice thing about going around the 8 is that the cue ball is leaving the cushion when it's coming into position. If you try to go the other way and you hit it just a little bit bad, the cue ball is heading into the cushion. And you called it right. He's coming around the 8. He's bumped the 8.
Also, the cue ball is going towards the next ball. Now, he's made a nice shot there. He's got a nice angle on this 4. And he's going to have to come out of here 2 cushions and probably play the 5 in the pocket by where he's standing. And this not quite natural because he's not going to be going towards the ball. I don't think the 5 goes in the side by the 8.
And he won't be using any English on this shot, just the center ball type hit. And it must go in the side because he struck it pretty firm. Went out past the center of the table, into the side pocket now.
Another thing the pros do, too, they try to do things in a natural manner where they can get the cue ball to go where they want for the next object ball just by the speed that they hit the shot.
Right. When you control the speed, and let the cue ball go where it naturally wants to. It's much easier to play position than if you try to control the direction as well as the speed.
And now Jeff's almost assuredly going to get on the board. And that's a confidence builder. There's nothing quite like a ball in hand when you're behind a little bit in a match to build up confidence a little bit. And he needed this game to narrow the deficit to 3-1.
And the best played game of the match so far.
I think Earl's a little disappointed in himself with his break performance to this point in the match, too. He's broken the balls 4 times and has not run out once. And I think worthy of mention is the fact that these modern-day professional players, they do run out about 1/3 of the time before the break.
Well, the score is now 3-1. Carter trailing, but with his first opportunity at the table to display his break.
I think we're going to see Jeff break the balls well and settle down. He just wasn't quite into the rhythm of playing the game the first 3 or 4 games, and I think he's going to be in good shape from this point on.
I think that rack that he just ran out and the way he played the safety showed what got him to this juncture in the tournament.
Well, high percentage play is the trademark of these professional players anyway. They're looking to do things in the simplest, highest percentage way possible.
And Jeff's taking his time. He's powdering up. And,
I think we're going to see Jeff play a little bit aggressively too, Mark. I think he realizes that the loser of this match is eliminated from the tournament. It's the last day of the event, and it would be a lot of fun to continue on and, in fact, have a chance to win this major event. And I think he's going to treat this as an all-or-nothing terrific opportunity.
well, he hit the rack quite well, and he's not going to be rewarded for it. Nothing went in, and the 9 has hung up by the corner pocket there, leaving Earl some type of a potential combination, although not easy.
He may play the billiard here, Mark. He would play for the run-out because the 9's not down deep in the hole because of the 4 being tied up, but I think he's going to play the billiard. And again, I think Jeff should thank his lucky stars that the way things are going right now. Earl is certainly not the offensive property that he usually is. That ball could easily have double kissed in, too. Earl didn't miss that, but maybe a 24th of an inch.
Well, I think that sums up the way the whole match has gone. Earl's been a 24th of an inch away from exploding out to maybe a 5 or 6-0 lead.
And Jeff, he's got problems here. The 2 won't go. It's tied up with the 7, and the 4 is tied up. I think he's just going to try to make this ball and maybe play some kind of safety.
Possibly even with a 2-rail shot on the 9 on the safety.
Yeah, you're right. He could go he could thin the 2 ball and play a 2-cushion billiard into the 9, and that may in fact be his best shot here. I don't think he's got a lot to worry about here because of how the 4 is lying. And that is exactly what he did.
And it's going to come out nicely here behind the 9 with the cue ball. No, it crept out there.
That's still a good shot. And we may see Earl attempt the same shot. Of course, his angle is much more severe and difficult. It's longer, and this really requires a thin hit.
Distance certainly plays a big part of accuracy. He failed to hit the ball altogether there from his distance.
I tell you, Mark, I think we've seen a momentum change here. Earl got up there and kind of one-stroked that shot and went back over and sat down in his chair. And Jeff, unemotional as always, it's hard to tell a lot of times what he's thinking. I'm sure he's going to do something common sense here and try to get this match down to 3-2, and he's right back in the thick of it.
Would look like if he could play a nice angle on the 3 to have an opportunity to go with the cue ball, 3 cushions around him between the 4 and the 8.
You know what I think he's going to do here? I think he's going to make the 2. Oh, he's going to go into the 8 and 4 here.
Yep, that's the angle he's setting up right now.
Now let's talk about percentages here. You know the way I see this? I see pocketing the 2, then pocketing the 3, and play in position to 3-cushion that 4 ball out of there and leave the cue ball right behind the 8. I consider that 100% roughly possibility. course, what Jeff's doing here is all right, too.
Even if he fails to hit the 4 and the 8, you'll still have some leeway to play around because the 3's set positioned quite nicely.
Boy, he made a nice shot there. He hit that right full in the face, which is exactly what he wanted. Now, if the 5 goes by the 6, this rack should be no problem. And it must go by the 6 because he's not taking any time at all to see where he needs to get on the 4.
I think when we're talking about players of this caliber and they obtain ball in hand, they should be capable of billiarding that 8 ball, just as Jeff did there.
Oh, hitting those balls was a foregone conclusion. That's not tough. And for viewers interested in learning how to play the game, with a center ball hit and medium speed, the cue ball always goes 90 degrees off of the object ball. So a lot of times those are a lot easier to figure than one would first think.
Practicing with ball in hand is quite helpful to learn the angles that the cue ball naturally wants to go. If you wait to learn it from game situations, you don't get enough practice on that one aspect of the game, and it takes a longer period to learn it.
Tell you, I like the way Jeff is moving around the table now. He's moving around the table with a little better speed, a little better pace. He's exuding confidence, and I think the momentum has definitely shifted.
Certainly the facial expressions of the players would look as though Jeff is in a lead by a 3-2 margin there.
Well, with Jeff, you could walk into the room and not know if he was winning or losing. He very seldom ever shows any mannerisms or facial expressions to give away the evidence.
And although he trails in the match now 3-2, he looks to be the player in command.
Well, I didn't like the way Earl came to the table and executed his last 2 or 3 shots. I think he could have done better. I think he's well, I know he's a great player, and I think he could have done better. I don't think he's happy with what he's done the last 2 or 3 shots, and he needs to compose himself and play Earl Strickland 9-ball. Jeff, didn't he change sides here? Wasn't he on the other side?
No, he's breaking from the exact same place. And last time the cue ball got away and almost scratched over in that pocket where it just now headed for. Well, he finally made a ball, but he's long range on the 1 ball.
I don't know. He's just about got to shoot at this, too.
Well, if he could cut the 1 in and have the cue ball bump the 5 ball to control on the same side of the table as the 2, that.
He's got to be careful here, though, Mark. If he catches the 1 a little bit on the fixed side, the cue ball could scratch across the corner and miss the 5. This is a touchy little shot.
Using a fairly long swing, so it would indicate power. Gonna not roll this ball, I don't believe. No, he hit a pretty firm stroke. Cue ball did bump the 5.
Well, he hit that ball a little. He missed it on the thick side. He would have been where you suggested if he actually pockets the ball. The cue ball would have been, probably a good 8 or 10 inches off the rail.
Rails played a bank and a semi-safe.
Maybe one of the lesser-known strengths of the Earl Strickland 9-ball game is banking the balls. He really excels at that particular
Here's
department.
another slightly elevated cue shot here.
I can't tell you how great he is on those shots. Those are difficult shots, and he makes it look so easy.
And then watching him practice, he practices those quite often, too.
Well, sure, and that's probably why he excels at that.
Once again, another elevated cue shot. Dead in the pocket. Made 2 balls. Kind of an angle here to come around the table 3 rails and get back out toward the center of the table where you can cue it quite readily on the following shot. And that's important, getting the cue ball off the rail.
Well, Earl shot that 1-ball bank with no hesitation at all, so I think he may be getting back in the swing of things, too. That certainly was a missable shot. Well, he wasn't happy with that. He's shaking his head and muttering, and I don't blame him. He didn't mean to come within 8 inches of that pocket, I'm sure.
No, he hit that ball a little fat down there in the corner pocket, and that's why the cue ball got away from him just a little bit. That might have been the straw that broke his back had that cue ball scratched on that shot.
It's funny how this game is measured a lot of times in hundredths of inches. I've seen a lot of matches and tournaments decided by a shot coming exactly like that one was, where the cue ball actually ends up being corner hooked or scratching. In this case, he was fortunate enough to still have a shot on the 9 ball.
Well, Earl's out in the crowd now requesting a towel. Jeff's toweling off his cue.
You know, the equipment today for preparing to go into the 1990s is better than ever before, too, Mark. The cue sticks, the technical engineering features of the cues are a lot better than they used to be. 25 or 30 years ago, they only had 2 types of cues, and they weren't really very well made. They do experimenting for rigidity and just every test you can think of. The equipment's better, and I think the play is certainly better.
Well, Earl broke and scratched right away. Going to give Jeff yet another opportunity at the table. And especially since he only made 1 ball on the break, Jeff will have an offensive opportunity.
Well, that makes 5 times now with Earl not breaking and running out, and I don't think he's going to beat Jeff Carter despite the 4-2 lead if he doesn't start performing better on the break.
You know, when you talk about cues and innovations, I saw a warm-up match, and Howard Vickery was playing a young player, and the guy was commenting about after Howard had broke about the 9 flew directly into the pocket, and he looked at Howard's cue, and Howard has a titanium shaft on his break stick. I don't know if you know. And he said, "Oh yeah, just what I need." The guy with a titanium shaft breaking into the 9.
Well, I've heard recently that those titanium cues provide excellent qualities for jumping balls. I haven't tried it, but Howard Vickery and Louis Lemke assure me that it's very easy to perform jump shots with a titanium cue.
Well, I've never experienced a titanium cue, but I have played with a graphite cue, and it's just the opposite. You can shoot an elevated cue shot with a graphite cue, and the cue ball absolutely will not leave the playing surface.
Okay, Jeff, what's he doing here, playing the 9, Mark?
I would say the 9 and the 5. A little bit below center. Good firm stroke. And he moved the balls around the table. And that's going to be it. Yeah.
Well, Earl's got a problem with the 4 ball here.
A bridge problem. He's going to have a hard time making the perfect stroke that he'd like to make the 1 and then obtain position on the 2.
Well, I was referring to the fact the 4 won't go anywhere. I think he's going to have to get position on the 2 or the 3 in order to break the 4 out.
Oh, he struck that nice.
He didn't get on the 2 where he could do anything with the 4, so it's going to have to be the 3 ball.
I think we'll see him just use a little bit of draw and get the cue ball on the angle that will go off the 3 directly into the 6.
And he did, in fact, get that very angle.
Now, he won't want to baby this shot. He's going to have to get that 6 to clear out of there. Medium speed, I would
Got to be careful not to hit the high side of the 6, too. Well, he made a pretty good shot there. And the remainder of this rack shouldn't be any problem. Earl, a fast player, incidentally. He doesn't waste any time.
Left himself a real nice angle on the 8 to slide down the table naturally for the 9. Not have to force it. And Earl now has a 5-2 lead.
I don't know. I don't know if I like Jeff's shot selection there. I think he might have been able to maybe bank the one the length of the table, which sounds a little far-fetched, but Jeff, an excellent banker, I think he might very well have done that and run the rack out. Those long-distance combinations are pretty tough.
Well, the thing about the shot that made it a feasible shot was that the 5-ball was there, which gave him yet another backup in case the combination failed to be pocketed. And he was following your advice of playing aggressive pool. He was trying to get a quick game on the board, get the break, get something rolling. And as far as a bank versus that combination with the backup possibilities, I think it's a individual choice there. That was awful close call.
Well, for the 6th time, Earl has not broken the balls and run out. So Jeff, he's got to be elated at the way Earl's breaking the balls. All he's got to do is get himself back in this match, which he's got a tough shot here to begin with.
The thing I like about the way Jeff approaches tough shots is that he gets down and he takes his time. He keeps his body very still, his head still. And on that occasion, he hit the middle of the pocket.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Mark. Certainly, if you had to pick two things to assist in the pocketing of very difficult shots, long shots, would be staying down on the ball and following through. And Jeff certainly did that very nicely on that shot just now.
Now he's got a fairly long draw stroke, a long bridge to facilitate tip speed. He struck it quite nicely. He doesn't get behind the 6. Got a little bit of an awkward angle on the 3. Gonna have to weave the cue ball between the 8 and 9. Thin hit on the 3.
All right, he's going to have to go around the 5 and right between the 5 and 6 here, I believe.
And I don't think we'll see him use English. It'll just be a form of draw here. He's got a thin cut on the 4, and he's going to have to use no English to facilitate accuracy with that. And he struck it quite nicely. Now he's going to maybe switch over and play a left-handed shot. He's pretty proficient left-handed.
That's a big advantage for these pros too, Mark. I don't know what percentage. I'd be hard-pressed to pick a percentage, but just off the top of my head, I'd say somebody that plays well opposite-handed certainly would have a 5 or 6% advantage over somebody that doesn't. Beats the heck out of using a bridge.
Well, he came up a little short on the 6 ball, and he's not real happy about it. He's taking his time and recollecting his thoughts. If he makes the 6, he's got a real good chance to go ahead and win the game.
I'm surprised at that too, Mark, because this very aptly illustrates a principle that is evident on at least 80% of all position shots. That being, on 80% of all your position shots, you're better off either too far or not far enough. In this instance, Jeff really has this whole end of the table, 75% roughly of the table, in which to have decent position on the 6. The only way he could mess that up is shoot it too easy. And I'm sure he realizes that after the fact.
He chose the bank and got the cue ball down here where it would be safe.
That's a nice shot, Mark. Jeff, ever professional, realizes that it's not against the rules to leave the cue ball in an awkward position for his opponent if he should in fact miss the bank. I think we're going to see Earl two-cushion this ball and try to catch this 6 on the thick side and knock it over roughly towards the side pocket and maybe down here to the end rail.
Earl hit the ball pretty nice.
Hit a little farther behind it than he wanted to. But again, this is a tough shot, especially trailing 5-2. Now here's a position where it's a big advantage to be able to use that elevated cue like Earl does. I don't think we'll see Jeff do that here. I think he's going to lag the ball in, and it's a little tougher to make it that way, I think.
Once again, he's employing that real good foundation that he has. Fairly long stroke, like a nice swing. Keeps his head real still throughout the shot. And left Earl a possible cut shot here.
I think almost without exception, today's great players would rather come to the table, especially when they're behind, and have a shot that they can hit with a little bit of authority. To come to the table when you're behind and have a shot that you have to lag is really hard. That was a rough shot he had there. And it was also laying in such a way, Jeff couldn't really hit it with, if he didn't elevate the cue, he couldn't hit it with a lot of authority because the scratch was possible.
Well, Earl now has a 6-2 lead, and he's about due to get his break working, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and Jeff's got to be concerned at this point because given the opportunities that he's had, he's quite a bit farther behind than he really should be. I'm sure he's not happy with his performance to this point in the match. Of course, one of the things about these tournaments that maybe isn't talked about enough, to really do well in these tournaments, not only must a player perform very well, he's also got to be a little bit lucky. Everybody's going to have a poor match once in a while, not quite up to their own expectations. You have to be fortunate enough to get away with a match of that type.
That's right. I've always said that you need to escape a couple matches where it looked like you could be imminently beaten, and then you somehow pull out a miracle shot, or the opponent scratches or makes some type of a major mistake right at the end, and then go on and play good pool from there.
Now all of a sudden, I don't think he's going to like this. If Earl had gotten decent position on that 3-ball, it would probably have been a 7-2 deficit, very hard to overcome. And even as it stands, Earl, I think, is going to try to put Jeff behind the 4 and 6 here. Not a very difficult shot. I'll tell you, Jeff should consider himself fortunate just to be able to see the ball, even though he doesn't have a shot. I think he should be very happy to be able to see this ball. And I think we're going to see him try to put Earl behind the 5.
And just use follow on it and the thickness that he hits on the 3-ball to determine the cue ball angle to the 5.
Now, for viewers who might be interested in learning how to play good safety, if Jeff gets the cue ball coming up at the proper angle here, he's really got about a 1-foot distance. It doesn't look like that much. He's got the 5, 4, and 6 to hide the 3 behind. So all he's got to do is get that cue ball coming up in that direction.
Yeah, I think the distance is even greater than 1 foot, so he has quite a lengthy margin of error, and he's hit it quite nicely. He's nearly going to freeze on the 5, limiting some of the kick possibilities.
Well, some of Jeff's newly acquired one-pocket skills have really assisted his safety game. Jeff has turned into a devastating safety player. That's a great shot he made there. And it's not only high percentage, it's not very difficult.
Now we're going to get to see Earl's kicking game. And he drilled it home. Jeff had a concerned look before he even shot the kick shot that potentially would happen.
Earl making reference to the great Nick Varner, one of the great kick shot players of all time.
And starting to loosen up a little bit in the match, too.
He sure is, and we touched on this briefly earlier in the match. Jeff hasn't capitalized on his available opportunities, and when that happens, a lot of times the balls they seem to do funny things. The other guy gets good rolls. Earl got a little lucky in pocketing a ball earlier in the match, and it was right after Jeff failing to capitalize on a terrific opportunity.
Well, position play was a little lax here.
He shouldn't have any trouble with this.
Especially the shot maker that Earl is. And you're right.
Well, there's an instance. Jeff couldn't really do much there. He did about as well as could have been expected from the position he was in. And I think that's something else, too. I don't know how you feel about it. I think most of the pros feel like if they play well and if something happens they don't win, they don't feel badly about it, but they're unhappy if they turn in a poor performance, not quite up to the par for them. And I think Earl's going to start getting better results on the break here, too.
Yeah, he made a ball last time, and once again he's made the ball this time. Mercifully for Jeff, Earl doesn't have an easy shot on the 1.
No, and you know, this is the 8th time Earl has yet to break and run out. And Jeff, while he should be thankful for that, has got to be unhappy with a 7-2 score. I think we're going to see Jeff bank this one back between the 7 and 8 and put the cue ball right in the middle of the end rail.
I think Jeff's thinking maybe he has to be careful with that so that he doesn't leave a combination or carom on the 9 ball down here, because the 9's fairly close to the corner pocket. And if the 1 ball doesn't end up right on the end rail, there's going to be some type of a possibility that way. Earl's banking it straight back. And he's going to leave Jeff some type of a combination or carom or possible.
Got a dead billiard here, I believe, on the 9. Well, what Earl tried to do there, Mark, he used quite a bit of right-hand English. He wanted the cue ball to go 3 cushions and end up behind the 5 and 6.
And just hit a little fat. I'll tell you one thing, when you're playing safe, for anybody at home that's interested, Jeff makes the carom shot. When you play safe, you'd rather avoid having to move both the cue ball and the object ball. That more than doubles the difficulty of it. Earlier in the match, Jeff made a stop shot, moved the object ball away, left the cue ball froze nearly to the 8 ball, and he received ball in hand for that. But that was a shot where he was just having to control one of the balls, not both of them. He wasn't moving the cue ball and the object ball like Earl just did there.
And he also had quite a distance to travel. Very hard at some distance to make the cue ball travel three cushions and snuggle up behind a couple of balls. Very difficult. Let's see if Jeff can get his break working.
Well, he hit the break a little softer that time for a little cue ball control, and he's going to be rewarded with making a ball and having...
I believe he can see this.
Well, the cue ball is out off the rail at least, and relatively in the center portion of the table.
What he's got to worry about here, Mark, if he goes 3 cushions, which he's going to have to do here, I believe, he's got a chance of coming into the 5 or the 9. Now, there's 2 ways to make frozen ball shots. You can hit rail first or ball first. He's going to want to hit ball first here, not rail first.
Well, because he's cueing over the 2 with a long bridge, I think it's going to be difficult to decide over one over the other. There he made rail first.
He made rail first. And actually, the 1 ball was laying just right. I mean, the cue ball hit exactly where it was supposed to. Had the 1 ball been a ½ inch or so farther left on the end rail, it would have been pretty much a dead scratch if he hits rail first.
This also will be a testy little stroke shot. He's going to have to employ a fairly powerful swing and a draw stroke to get the cue ball off the cushion. Fairly tight pockets. You have to hit it exactly right down the rail.
Oh, that's a nice shot. He got more than far enough out. What a beautiful stroke he put on that. And he hit it just hard enough to get the job done. That's a very nice hit there.
Anytime you're shooting down the rail, you're actually shooting to only a half of a pocket.
That's true. And that shot was a lot harder than Jeff made it look like. And all of a sudden, barring the unforeseen, Jeff is going to get game number 4 on his side of the score, and we've got a match again.
Now, the stroke that Jeff used to initiate the run here on that 2 ball was a level cue stroke with draw. And when you hit it like that, you can use less power as opposed to a person that has the cue slightly elevated trying to attempt a draw stroke. And for that reason, I think that's a shot that maybe Jeff would do better than Earl.
And I've noticed in recent years, Mark, that all of these professionals, almost without exception, try to use a level cue. I think you, obviously, for accuracy purposes, that would be the best way to approach the game. I don't know, it seems like when a player elevates a cue, there's a tendency to sometimes flail at the ball, not follow through properly. And if you hit it with any power and elevate the cue ball wants to go up in the air a little bit. Very tough to control shots with an elevated cue stick.
Jeff has a little problem circumventing the 9 here. He didn't. Looks like he's going to go underneath the 9. Oh, he's made a nice shot here. He went 4 cushions. would have been a common play to see someone try to come out 2 cushions and probably receive a fairly long and off-angle shot on the 7.
I've always found it enjoyable to watch these matches. I've played the game for a living all of my life, as you have, and I still learn interesting new position shots. To be honest with you, I don't believe I'd have thought of that particular way of playing it, and he's really made this run out look relatively easy.
Showed a little imagination there, didn't he, Grady?
He did, and he had the cue ball moving towards the next ball at a slow speed, which is what everybody strives for.
Yeah, he possesses terrific shot selection skills, which you mentioned earlier. Earl's shot making might be a tad better, but Jeff's position play is right on the mark.
Well, that was certainly evident there. I'm really proud of Jeff, the way he decided to play that shot. That showed imagination and confidence. Now, if he can get that break working, we're looking at a close, exciting match, which I suspected it would be from the outset.
And Jeff's made a couple runouts in this match that indicate that he's playing at a uppermost level of his game and ability. I think
he's settled down into this match now. He didn't start off quite like he would like to have started, but I think he's got his confidence built up now. And Earl not really playing that well, even with the lead.
Not at all. I would have to say that Jeff has actually outplayed him on these runouts.
I don't know what he's got here now. Can he see this ball enough to cut it in? I can't tell from this vantage point.
Oh, he played a 1 pocket safety, Grady.
High ball. Now, for those people who might not understand the principle, when you put English on the cue ball, that stays on the cue ball even after it contacts the rail. So Jeff hitting it with a high ball, after the cue ball left the rail, it was spinning back towards that same rail and had no choice but to die, which is, in fact, exactly what happened, and he's made a great shot there.
And now Earl tried a jump shot, and he's fouled in a fairly hasty manner. And Jeff has a chance to draw the match to 7-5 if he can get out on this game. He'd have to feel good about being in the match 7-5.
I think Earl was a little precipitous that time. He could have taken a little more time and maybe found something better to do. And this might sound funny to say at this juncture, Mark, but Jeff, trailing 4 games to 7, almost seems to be in command. And I don't think he's going to let anything bother him. Even at this point in the match, being behind, if Jeff were to receive a couple of terrible rolls, I don't think he'd let it bother him at all. And Jeff's kind of threading his way through these intricate patterns with apparent ease right now. I like the confidence that he's standing at the table with. And I think Earl needs to be a little concerned about that right now. Nice, smooth stroke. I just like the way Jeff's playing right now.
He's certainly delivering the tip through the cue ball real nice.
Well, Jeff is always, he would be almost a model, or you could use him for textbook lectures on the proper way to stroke the ball. Everything's smooth and even and fluid and at a nice pace.
Hasn't always been that way for Jeff either. He used to play a very unorthodox manner where the cue swung underneath his body. Right now, his elbow in back is textbook perfect. It's right over the top of the cue.
Well, Jeff, a very workmanlike player. He spends a lot of time practicing, and the results are evident, too. He works really hard on correcting his mistakes. If he's not happy with a particular aspect of his game, he works real hard on it. Kind of reminds me of Lassiter. I can remember the great Wimpy Lassiter when he used to play in tournaments, and Billy Casper out on the golf course. If they hit one bad shot, they'd be in there practicing that shot. Casper would hit 500 golf balls, and Lassiter would be up at 4 a.m. in the morning in the practice room practicing a shot that he missed.
And Jeff's about to draw the match 7-5. Another good run out there, wasn't it, Grady?
It was a great run out.
The last 2 games Jeff's won, he's made tremendous runouts.
And as we've touched on a number of times before, if the run out looks easy, that's a proper way to play the game. It's not supposed to look difficult. And actually, these last 2 patterns, correct me if I'm mistaken, Mark, were ones in which it was very possible to mess up.
Oh, sure. There was some, had to be some terrific stroke shots made in conjunction with the position play.
Well, I love good position play. I love knowledge, and Jeff certainly is the possessor of inordinate skills in those particular departments.
Well, he's looking to get his break working here.
And he's really outbroken Earl this match, hasn't he?
Yes, he certainly has. He got a ball to drop. Not an easy shot on the 1 ball. It has to be either a bank shot back under the cue ball or a possible safety.
I don't think we're going to see the bank shot just because the 2 doesn't go. If he were to go for the bank shot, I think he'll actually not try to make the bank and maybe make the cue ball go over by the 6. But before trying that, he's going to push out and give Earl the opportunity to take the shot. And again, this gives Jeff a great opportunity, if Earl elects to have Jeff shoot again, to exhibit his 1-pocket skills. I think the right shot here is to try to put the cue ball behind the 6.
Earl missed the entire 1 ball. He's bumped the 7 ball out of the way of the 2, into the way of the 4 a little bit. Doesn't look to be a major concern. Jeff's sizing it up. He must have most of the pocket available for the 4.
If I were Earl, I would be very unhappy with the way I struck the last couple of shots.
Yeah, even if he'd left the shot but just not ball in hand, it would have been very helpful for him.
That may sound simplistic, but that's a point well taken. All the professionals say to themselves on occasion, gee, maybe I'll mess up this safety, but at least I hit it. The guy didn't have ball in hand.
Sure, ball in hand is such an advantage. The percentage of runouts with ball in hand would have to be up in the 70 to 85%.
It runs between 70 and 80. An interesting stat from ACCUSTATS when Pat Fleming does the ACCUSTATS is this, Mark, you might be interested in this. The professional players, and this is not ball in hand, just when they have a shot to start with, regardless of the number of balls on the table, they run out about 70% of the time, and that's an amazing stat.
Then you couple that with the fact that when they don't run out, how many times do they play a safe where they get a kill on the very next inning?
Or if you were to put a win percentage on when they start with a good shot of the games, it would certainly have to be up in the 80s, I think.
Jeff looks to be playing the billiard on the 7 here. Takes a fine, thin cut on the 4. He didn't hit it too hard to hold the 4 and the cue ball near together. And he has a good opportunity here.
I know Earl's not, he can't possibly be happy. His last 2 turns at the table, he hit 2 quickly shot bunt shots and missed the ball both times and gave Jeff a ball in hand, and that's certainly not in keeping with his style of play.
Once again, Jeff did not use any English on the ball to help him with his accuracy.
I don't think he wanted to be that close to the rail. I think he
No.
wanted to be out a little bit. He's got to be careful here. I think he kind of frowned at the shot because to hit it naturally would entail the risk of going behind the 8 and 9, and certainly wants to avoid that.
Nice follow stroke, and he's gone all the way down the table to play the 6 in the side. And once again, showed a little different path than what I've seen a lot of players take on a similar situation.
And again, making it look very easy, Jeff has adjusted his game plan there. When he got a little bit out of line on the 5, he made it look easy by electing to go for the side pocket. Obviously the correct choice.
This has certainly been a match where you could see a lot of good decisions made for someone wanting to learn to play better 9-ball.
And to this point in the match, Mark, I would give Jeff the edge as far as common sense, shot selection, safety play. Those areas he's really performed very well in this match.
Yeah, his overall billiard knowledge has been shining through.
And the score is now 7-6, and we've got a close, exciting match. I'm really looking forward to see the outcome of this.
We kind of predicted this before the match that this was going to be a good, tough match.
Well, a lot of times the early matches on the last day of the tournament are the best matches of the whole event. And Jeff's broke the balls well. He's got no reason to change. He's got to be happy with his break performance, I think.
The one on the side, he's going to end up with some type of a shot on the 3. He's made 3 balls on the break and has a pretty good run out. Now, Earl's sitting in a chair. It'd be interesting to see how well he can control his emotions here. He had a lot of opportunities early, and now the opportunities are starting to become a little fewer and far between. And we might see him display a little immaturity.
Well, I hope not. Earl's a great competitor, and he's still in this match. He's not out of it by any means. I think Earl's thinking to himself, boy, this guy better not let me back at the table. That's what he's thinking. But I have to give Jeff credit. He's used every tool at his disposal. He's displayed a lot of common sense. His shot selection has been great. And despite the fact that he started off a little sluggishly, he's certainly got everything in gear at this point. In fact, I think Earl's got to be concerned about the confidence with which Jeff is at the table.
Yeah, he looks super. He's taking his time now because there's a little interference right behind him. He's got the cue ball and the 6 ball laying just the way he wants it.
Yeah, he's not going to have any trouble with this. He won't be straight in on the 8. I know he doesn't want to do that. I think we'll see him come over here on the side rail to where he can shoot the 8 in the corner. That's just exactly what he's done.
Now he has a real natural 3-rail position.
Right, and that's, as we touched on earlier, this is what all the pros strive for. All he's got to do is use a little left English, a little above center ball, and just let the cue ball slide down here naturally.
Hit it with nice speed. Got the cue ball off the cushion for an easy game number 14, tying up the match 7 games apiece.
And if you wanted to make a film about the proper way to play 9-ball and play good position and play safe when you didn't have a decent opportunity, you couldn't do any better than the last 3 or 4 games on the part of Jeff Carter. You got to like the way he's playing, Mark.
I certainly do. I've always been partial to the way he plays.
Well, Jeff Carter is a guy that if I had all the money on the line and I wanted a good, solid, hard-fought performance on the part of a player, he'd be the guy I'd want in there.
And now he's taking a restroom break. And we got a race to 4 here to decide who goes on in the tournament and who sits on the sidelines.
Now, Earl's going to take this opportunity to hit a few balls, and I think that's a good idea on his part. He cannot be happy with his last couple of turns at the table. And let's talk a minute about young George Breedlove, who's down there playing Kim Davenport. He's trailing only 6 games to 7, and he kind of electrified this knowledgeable audience last night in defeating Nick Varner.
Well, he's been hitting the balls awful well. George is a young player, and he's blessed with a lot of offensive firepower and a lot of enthusiasm. He's pretty excited to be this far along in the major event.
And the kid displayed quite a bit of courage last night, too. He won a couple of come-from-behind matches, defeated the #1 player in the world. And I can see in 2 or 3 years, Mark, having 100 world-class players in tournaments. There's that many good young players now, and the sport is just well on its way to immense popularity.
Yeah, it's really blossoming in the last few years. I can remember when I first began playing, there was really only one major pool tournament each year, and that was the U.S. Open Straight Pool that was held in Chicago.
Yeah, what have we got now? At least 15 or 20.
And it seems to be on the upswing. Jeff
Oh, no doubt about it.
Jeff Carter's reemerged into the tournament room.
Well, he didn't stay very long. Whatever he did,
He might have just sprinkled a little cold water on his face and said, now let's go out here and get this last race to 4 out of the way and keep up that solid type of play. You know, when you make runouts repeatedly like Jeff did, that's very mentally draining to hold your composure and your position play and your intensity for that type of a duration. And sometimes it's advantageous to take a moment to break.
That's a good point. A lot of the players overlook, I think, the opportunity to recompose their thoughts and formulate a game plan if necessary. Jeff, a common sense, hard-working type of pool player, never overlooks that type of opportunity.
Well, he broke the balls well and didn't make anything and didn't leave a whole lot. Earl had the first opportunity to play a safety.
Well, let's analyze the break stats here. Earl has not broken and ran out of 8 efforts. Jeff, on the other hand, just broke and ran 2 racks out of 7 efforts. So 28 and 4/7% of the time, Jeff Carter has broken run out. Earl, 0%. And I'm not sure that bodes well for Earl at this juncture of the tournament, or of the match, excuse me.
And I believe he's left Jeff a chance to hit the 1 ball directly.
Earl's safety play in this match has been a little suspect, Mark.
Well, we gave Jeff the credit for the advantage in that area anyway.
You're right, and looking back on the match to this point, I don't think Jeff's made any bad safeties. In fact, he's won 2 or 3 games because of good safety play, and actually could have won another. I remember Earl kicking in the 3 ball when Jeff played an excellent safety.
Not an easy run out. I'm not sure what Earl's going to do here. He's going to play the 1 ball. He cut it in pretty nicely. Bumped the 8.
And I don't think he can make this 2 in the side pocket. We may see him go for the 2 ball across the side bank. It doesn't look to me like he's got an easy safety. He's going to bank this ball, a cue ball right into the 7.
He might be playing safe and following the cue ball down. No, you were right. He was going offense all the way.
But again, that's a little risky because he had to kind of turn the cue ball loose. No assurance of getting position on a 3, and it's a very difficult shot.
Well, frequently when these type players are confronted with a difficult safety or a difficult shot, they'll play offense with the hope that they might get safe if they fail to connect on the offensive side of the board.
Well, that's another statistic that's worthy of mention, Mark. 2 out of 3 times when faced with a tough shot or a reasonable safety, the greatest 9-ball players in the world elect to play safe.
And now Jeff had to make a hit and attempt to play safe, and while he hasn't been perfectly safe, this is by no means an easy shot.
No, it's not. This is a very tough shot, and he can't hit this ball with a lot of authority, and yet I feel at this juncture of the match that Earl Strickland, this may be a do or die for him at this point.
Well, he certainly hit it nicely. He didn't get a whole lot for it, but he made a terrific swing.
Well, Earl needs to do something to change the momentum of this match around in his favor. Right now, certainly everything's going in Jeff's direction.
You know, some of the matches I've watched Earl playing, when it gets tight right down toward the end and sometimes things aren't really rolling his way, he will perform in a little bit of an insolent manner. And I think it's more as a means of he's playing possum, maybe looking like he's starting to crumble, and then when he gets that opportunity, he comes up there like a bulldog and runs out.
Oh, that's interesting. I never heard that particular theory espoused before. It makes sense. I don't see why a pool player couldn't do that.
Well, he certainly, when you watch him, he attacks the table. He doesn't go up there with the attitude of, oh, no. Cue ball got away from him just a little bit.
He made a good shot there, really, Mark. He didn't mean to be that close to the side pocket.
That's absolutely correct. Now, this is a tough shot sometimes, shooting over the pocket like this, and you got to make a fine cut with a little bit of slow speed. And that is difficult.
A lot harder shot than it looks like, isn't it?
Yep.
A lot of times that pocket lip actually interferes with a good, smooth stroke.
And anytime you're cutting the ball like that, you're shooting to less than the whole width of the pocket, so you have to be very accurate. And then when you have to roll the ball, it seems as though when you don't swing quite as hard, the cue tends to not go quite as straight.
That's true. And I'll tell you, remember we spoke about the momentum changing when Jeff was trailing 4-7. I think Earl's really got to settle himself down. Everything is going Jeff Carter's way right now. Jeff's got to be happy with the way he's playing, Mark, and the way he's breaking the balls.
And I think that the credit has to all go to Jeff. He's turned the match around himself with some terrific playing.
Well, this is a textbook example of how a good attitude can win a match. Although he hasn't won the match yet, certainly he's in good shape. And he did it all with good attitude. He was down 7-2, and he's preparing to take an 8-7 lead. And we talked about that too. I gave the attitude edge to Jeff, and I can't say enough about his composure during this match.
Got a nice thin cut on the 9. Just let the cue ball go up and down the table. Wants to make sure he doesn't make a hasty attempt or swing at this ball.
Well, he saw somebody out of the corner of his eye, and he got up from the shot like a lot of the golfers do, and that's a good idea.
Sometimes even with a routine shot, when you have to keep that constant mental intensity, it's a good time to take a step back and powder up and recollect your thoughts and make sure you give it 100% effort. Not what you perceive as 100% effort, but make sure all your wits are about you when you stroke that ball. And Jeff, for the first time in the match, has the lead, 8-7.
Jeff, a great closer too, Mark. When the matches are close, down at the end, he really plays hard to try to put the match away. I don't think you'd see him do anything silly for the entire rest of the match.
I don't think we've seen him do anything silly anyway. Another good break. He's made the 5 on the break. Got a good shot on the 1.
Well, he's got a problem with this, so if he draws the ball, it looks to me like the cue ball is going to go back towards the 2 and 3. No assurance of getting a shot. Of course, we may see Jeff follow this out of there 2 cushions. That's a good confidence-building shot. Not that he needs that at this juncture of the match.
That's interesting that you mentioned that. I would assume by virtue of the fact you said the follow shot is a good confidence-building shot, you mean because it's a stroke that we don't use quite as often, and when you hit that accurately, you start to feel better about your overall stroke.
True, and this is a crowd pleaser. It's a pretty shot, and one of the more difficult ones in our sport, I might add.
I think he would like to play safe here, but it's awful difficult safe also.
Well, again, Jeff's newly acquired one-pocket skills would enable him to play safe. This is an easy shot for a one-pocket player. You just bank the 1 back down to roughly where the cue ball is, and you play the cue ball to go over around the 4 and 6, actually maybe even hitting the 4 ball. But he's not going to do that. I don't think he's thinking about playing safe here.
If he could make the 1 and get some type of a hit on the 2, I'd like his chances about winning this game.
That's a pretty shot, and he did just like we talked about, followed it out of there 2 cushions.
Now he might have that 3-rail safety that you're so fond of.
Well, the 9's in the way, I think, Jeff. Mark, for that. I think he can make this ball. Not the easiest position shot in the world. We may see him go 2 rails across the table and underneath the 3 and shoot at the length of the table. I don't know if he's got room to draw this ball out of there, and even if he does, he's got the 8 ball to contend with.
The way he's lining up on this, looks like he is playing straight offense. He might bump the 3 back with a little bit of draw on the cue ball, too. Oh, he struck it nicely. Bumped the 8.
I thought the 8 was
In
was
the
a
past.
problem. But I like the where he's gotten here anyway. Now he's got a bank on a 3 where he's going to have nice position on the 4, and he got an angle where he can hit this with the proper speed. Plus he's got an excellent get safe possibility here.
And he's been exhibiting terrific confidence in his strokes.
Oh, you got to like the way the guy's playing. He's playing with abandon and confidence. He's not happy with that.
Possibly a little too much safety in mind as far as the angle that he took, but then he hit it too hard to really make it an effective shot. Earl has a fine cut on the 3 ball.
Well, again, talking about strengths, Earl Strickland excels at cutting thin shots. He's really good at that. But again, this is a problem because the cue ball control is not effortless on this shot. If he hits it with no English, he runs the risk of running into the 8 or the 6.
Well, he hit it with no English.
Or
as long as he
scratching.
doesn't run into the pocket. Oh, it hung up. Earlier in the week, that ball would have dropped in the pocket, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would, and we talked about that a number of times on these commentaries. The daytime conditions certainly are not as the same as the nighttime conditions in these events.
Well, the cloth is a little more broken, so there's a little more friction when that ball bobbles around in the pocket, and that's what enabled it to hold up on the lip of the pocket. Now, Earl's going to have to use the elevated cue shot here. And that going across the rail there to a half a pocket's difficult, even though he made it look fairly simple. Now he's back in line.
He made a nice shot there, a little risky actually.
With not much of an alternative, though.
Well, we talked about that 100th of an inch factor. Certainly he didn't miss scratching on that shot by any more than that.
No, and these are the bulldog skills I was talking about earlier with Earl.
That was a touchy shot, that 3 ball anyway. Anytime you got to hit the ball thin and make the cue ball travel at least one length of the 100-inch length of a 4.5 by 9 pool table, funny things can happen.
Well, the score is now 8 games apiece, and Earl could erase all the bad memories of his earlier break performance with some good break performance now.
Yeah, it certainly hasn't been up to Earl Strickland standards.
Oh, he hit the rack quite nicely there. Dropped the 1 on the side. The 2 balls on one end of the table and the cue balls on the other.
Jeff, a very smart player. We've talked all tournament long about how some of the pros are racking the 2 ball in such a position that it ends up at the same end of the table where you rack the balls, so that when the 1 goes in the side pocket, as it often does when a modern day player breaks the balls, he has nothing to shoot at, and that in fact is what happened there.
Where is that for the viewers at home to put the 2 ball, Grady?
Well, you rack it not the last ball of the rack, but the 2 balls above that. Actually, the 7th and 8th ball, I suppose you could
I see.
say.
Just below the outside wing balls.
Okay, Earl's made a nice shot here.
Now we're going to get to see Jeff's kicking skills. He certainly wouldn't want to move the 4-7 or the 5 on this shot, would he?
No. This is a tough shot because if he hits the inside of the deuce, obviously he's probably going to scratch.
I think for the viewers at home, the 4, 7, and 5 are all on the same long rail down going toward the 2.
Got to be careful this doesn't lengthen out on him. It has a tendency to do that, and actually that's what happened. A little touchy here. We may see Earl go into the 7 and 4 here. I don't know if he'll do that because he could get snookered on the 3 ball. I don't know how he's going to play this. This is not an easy pattern.
Not at all, and the look on his face is such that he's not quite sure how he's going to play it either.
You know, I think he'll end up playing the 4-7 combination. That appears to me to be the easiest route to victory. Anything else entails banking a ball or playing pinpoint position. Of course, the 9's in the way a little bit here. Now his other possibility, he could come back 6, 8 inches, 10 inches, and play the 4 across the side.
Well, the side pocket's also a little bit in the way if he's going to slide across to get on the combination, which he wisely decided against.
He's got a chance to make the 7 here, too.
As well as the bank.
Again, Earl, a great bank pool player.
And a real good shot selection decision there, too.
It sure was.
Once again, he's slightly distracted. Difficult shot in front of him. Shooting right down the rail with a frozen 5. Earl sees somebody in the crowd. He's going to take the time to towel off, collect his thoughts. Very important game here.
Oh, it's a big game. Go ahead 9-8 or trail 9-8. And every one of these games has a 2-game swing in the ultimate score. And as we're waiting here, Kim Davenport now leads 10-7 over George Breedlove.
Well, here we go. Oh, once again. Earl's muttering to himself, and he's not muttering any jokes like he was earlier when he was ahead by a good margin.
I don't think that's a good sign either, Mark. Have you ever noticed that when you're playing good pool, and pardon my use of the second person, you don't let any little thing bother you?
Yeah, your concentration's got you tuned into that and away from what anybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And he did. I think he talked himself out of that shot.
Not only talked himself out of it, he's got a ready-made excuse for losing the game and missing the shot. I just don't think that's good. And there's varying opinions on how much audience involvement should be entailed in tournament matches. But certainly it's not tennis or chess where you can expect everybody to be just deadpan.
I don't know that we'd want that for the future of the sport.
I don't think it would be good. In fact, I like to see the audiences involved. And actually, in my opinion, this audience has been very considerate of the players.
I'm one that I would like to think that each player is in total control of his own destiny. And even though there is a certain amount of luck that occasionally prevails, if you take advantage of your opportunities at the table when they're presented to you, you usually come out on top.
Oh, I agree with you. I believe in making your own luck, too.
Vince Lombardi once said, luck is the residue of hard work. And you have to be at the table to be lucky. If your opponent's constantly missing balls, naturally the player at the table is going to be the one that receives the bulk of the luck.
Well, we have seen no evidence in speech, body language, mannerisms from Jeff Carter to indicate being defeated in this match, even when he trailed 2-7. I can't overstress the benefit of having a good attitude. It's just invaluable in playing good pocket billiards. Jeff, in my opinion, Mark, the way he's performed and acted today is the epitome of championship pocket billiard play. I mean, he looks like a world champion out there.
Yeah, he's destined to win some of these major events, isn't he?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I don't see any way to keep Jeff Carter out of the winner's circle.
Jeff now has a 9-8 lead. And I think we're going to see a little insolent behavior that I described earlier. Earl very unhappy.
Well, he's missed 2 5 balls back to back. 9-8 your favor. And Jeff Carter just inquired as to the score, and again, being ever professional, if there's any doubt about the score, for heaven's sake, check it. It's on tape, and there's scorekeepers. Certainly don't want. It's hard enough to win when you know what the score is, Mark.
I think maybe that would be something that could be improved. The players keeping their own score. Sometimes when you're deep in concentration and there's a couple lapses where you thought you were going to get a game and failed to, then you get confused as to the outcome of the score, and that can be a little disconcerting to your concentration.
Well, I don't know about you. Sometimes I don't know what city I'm in. I certainly could forget to score.
Well, Jeff broke them well. Looks like the 7 dropped.
He's got a problem here, Mark. Not only is the 4 tied up with the 8 ball, I don't see any reasonable path from the 1 to the 2.
No, but in the overall picture of it, Earl's the one with the bigger problem here, because even if Jeff doesn't have a good shot on the 2, he'll have the first opportunity to play safe.
Well, Earl's problems in this match are more deep-rooted than getting a shot the way this has gone. And if I were Earl at this juncture of the match, I'd have to be unhappy with my performance. Earl has had a lot of opportunities, not capitalized on them. His break performance has been poor, and in general, a sub-performance for Earl Strickland. Subpar performance.
Well, I think although that Jeff hasn't played flawless, he's certainly played quite well, and he's made up for the mistakes that he's made with some excellent playing.
Well, steady play is certainly, that'll win a lot of matches and tournaments. And Jeff Carter has certainly shown us that. And the great Buddy Hall is threading his way towards us at this very moment.
Earl made a terrific safety there.
We've had a lot of fun watching this match, Buddy. There have been some momentum changes, and we both give Jeff Carter a lot of credit. He trailed in the match 7-2, and at the point where he lessened that lead to 4 games to 7, we saw a momentum change. And we feel that Jeff is prevailing so far in this match due simply to a great attitude. He's played steadily, not in spectacular fashion, but he's played a Buddy Hall type match, which is possibly the nicest accolade you could say. You want to comment on this match?
Well, I just got here. I don't have much. I don't know much to say. I know that Jeff is a great player, and he said he could beat anybody. And for him coming from behind like that, it looks real good to him. It looks real good for him right now. If
well,
looks like it's going to tie it up here.
The other thing is Earl has broken the balls a total of 9 times and has not broken run out once. Jeff has outbroke Earl. And the safety play, we gave Jeff the edge in the safety play, and he in fact played 3 or 4 good safeties, which translated to game victories.
Earl's a never say die player, so is Jeff. It looks like it's turned into a great match.
And Earl certainly played a safety here that looks like it could translate into a victory for him.
I'll get away and leave you guys alone.
Oh, we always enjoy your presence. It's an honor and a privilege to have you come by and make a few comments. In fact, Buddy, you play in a few minutes, don't you? Who do you play?
I play the winner of these 4 guys here. They have to fight it out amongst themselves to see who I play. I play the sole survivor of these 4 people.
Well, he's in trouble, isn't he?
And here comes Earl Strickland, tying it up 9-9.
And the close, exciting match we referred to at the outset is, in fact, coming to pass.
Well, Earl made quite a safety shot there. He broke up the 4 ball with it, left Jeff in a virtually unhittable shot on the 2. And Earl capitalized. And now he'd like to make a ball on the break and get that offense rolling.
He might try to maybe overbreak him a little bit here. He just hasn't broken the balls well.
What do you think about in this juncture of the match? Do you think about the cue ball control, or do you think about getting the ball down?
Well, you know, I'm a big coward anyway, Mark, and that's well documented. I think to myself, for heaven's sake, don't scratch or jump the cue ball off the table.
Make your opponent earn everything that he gets.
Right. And I don't do it as well as a guy like Jeff Carter. Jeff Carter is kind of like that commercial. If you beat him, you do it the old-fashioned way. You really earned it. He won't give you a thing. And this is a big game here. Whoever wins this game and takes a 10-9 lead is undoubtedly the favorite to win the match.
And once again, Earl failed to make a ball on the break.
Well, that's 10 breaks without a run out, and Earl's lucky to be in the match at 9 games apiece with that kind of break performance. Jeff made a great shot there.
Terrific shot, terrific position. He's established himself at the table here, and he looks real prime to run out.
I like the way he went on the other side of the 2 ball, too. It makes getting position on this 3, which is a little touchy, very, very easy.
swung the cue ball down between the 6 and 8.
And right there on the side rail is perfect. Now all he can follow or draw this ball. I think we'll see him follow it one cushion out of there and go all the way over to the side rail.
And he's going to play this shot left-handed. And he didn't hit it quite as hard as he would have liked.
No, he's a good foot short of where he would like to have been. And I think he's going to have to shoot this in the corner.
He had to smile about it, displaying his terrific attitude. He was amused that he let himself get out of line already.
He could shoot this ball in the side pocket, but to do so requires shooting fairly easy and, you know, you run the risk of running into something here. I think we're going to see him shoot this in the corner and possibly follow down for position on the 5 in the side pocket, because that affords him the opportunity of shooting the 4 ball at the optimum speed. And that's another thing these pros do so well. They always shoot the balls at proper speed. If he shoots this fairly easy, he can get away with a little bit of a bad hit.
He's swung and hit it perfectly, and that had to be a terrific confidence-building shot there.
Well, he shot it absolutely the best percentage way that was available to him. Of course, he didn't need to get away with a bad hit because the ball never even came close to touching a rail.
No, he split the pocket. I can't tell what type of an angle he has on the 5. He seems to be surveying what type of angle he wants to obtain on the 6 to facilitate getting on the 7 easily.
I think he's going to want to just go over to the side rail, maybe out a little bit, and play the 7 in the same pocket that he just shot the 4 into. And that's just exactly what he's done.
Minimizing the movement on the cue ball to maximize the percentages.
Well, you very seldom see Jeff play a poor position shot.
Reminiscent of Buddy Hall, who was just here.
Well, I tried to pay Jeff the highest compliment I could. To play a Buddy Hall type match is high praise indeed. I think we're going to see almost a center ball hit and just go over to the side rail. And he went into the ball, which there's nothing wrong with. He saw that it was a high percentage, no snooker possibility type shot.
And it allowed him to swing a little firmer at this. I think he felt like he did enough of the touch shots here, and let's make a swing on this object ball. Making sure he gets it in the hole.
And again,
nice
with
shot.
a little confidence and authority, off the side rail. And the modern day players, Mark, have turned into what I think of as draw type players anyway. They would rather hit shots with a little authority given an equal choice than they would to bunt a ball in.
Right. Certainly the bulk of the shots take place at center ball or below, and that's why earlier in the match when you said if he shot this ball in with a little bit of follow, that'd be a terrific confidence builder. We don't use that stroke as much, so when you're hitting that one well, your chances are you're hitting all your shots quite well.
This is, if Jeff does in fact end up winning this match, it's got to be a big win for him. And he takes a 10-9 lead. And for Earl, I think he can only hope against hope to come to the table.
Yeah, as you said before, Jeff's a terrific closer, and I'm sure he's looking to win this match without Earl ever coming back to the table again.
And Jeff has run out 2 times out of 10 from the break for 20%. To Earl's 0%, and certainly that has to be one of the big differences in this match. Very surprised to see a performance on the part of Earl Strickland where he doesn't break and run out at least a couple of times.
Well, he made a ball for sure, but he's not going to have a shot for sure.
No, he's going to have to push here. And Jeff should be a little bit thankful here that the 2 and 8 got tied up. It makes the rolling out on this shot a little bit easier. Now he wants to make a push that does not give Earl any opportunity to break out the 2 and 8. Now what he's done here, Mark, again exhibiting that great safety knowledge that he's improved so much on of late, he's going to kick at this 1 ball and try to knock it roughly in the direction of the 2 and 8. And the cue ball, in fact, has a chance maybe to end up behind a 3 here. Let's see how he hits his shot.
There was no way to roll out for anything but a defensive shot here.
I like the way he's done this. He hit it a little thinner than he would have liked. But actually, had the one not hit the point of the side pocket, he would have still had an excellent chance for getting safe there.
Well, that, in fact, is one of the few times where the breaker can make a ball on the break and actually be the underdog in the rack, wouldn't you say?
I think anytime you have to roll out, you are the underdog. But when you give world-class players the opportunity to make a decision, either to accept the shot or have you shoot again, there's no advantage there. It's hard to push out where you have an advantage. The only exceptions could be in the area of good bank playing, for an example. If one player is a good bank pool player and he rolls out for a bank, obviously he could have an advantage, or to roll out for a jump shot, and I think Earl has snookered himself.
Earl had a relatively easy ball to pocket, but his position didn't end up just right. Now he certainly is in the underdog seat in this rack.
I'll tell you, to sum up Earl's play in this match, Mark, in my estimation, it's been lackadaisical.
Well, he hit the 2, made the 8 bank up in the corner, and once again he's in another kicking confrontation.
He seems to have lacked the Earl Strickland fire we've grown so accustomed to seeing.
Well, he's going to have to make something happen here. He's playing a safe, might scratch, did scratch. And Jeff's looking calmly concerned. Not going to let anything happen, not let this opportunity slip away.
All Jeff has to do here to almost 100% assure this run out is to get on the other side of the 3. And there's got no, it's almost a shoot and stop proposition.
Yep.
And I think he got perfect on the ball. And this is very, very easy from here, and I'd be very surprised if we see Jeff make any kind of mistake here.
Even when the balls are laying in easy fashion, though, a 100% intensity has to remain, or you can miss a easy shot or miss what would be an easy position.
Oh, there's no question about it, Mark. My wife helped me a lot in close matches like this. I lost 2 or 3 matches that were just heartbreakers, where I had an opportunity, a good opportunity, when it was down close at the end of a match, and she suggested I take a little bit more time and play just good, solid, professional type position and get out. And I followed her advice, and it's worked very well for me.
Well, Jeff certainly played good, solid, professional position the whole match through, excluding the first game when he let the cue ball get away from him on a little bit of a lackadaisical play on his part.
Well, you got to admire Jeff Carter's performance here. I think he won this match for 3 reasons: break performance, good attitude, and solid safety play. And I think coming away from this that he deserved to win the match. I think he played the better pool this afternoon.
Oh, without a doubt. Beautifully played match. Jeff Carter 11, Earl Strickland 9.
And maybe we can get Jeff up here for a few words in a moment.
That'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah. Did you win your match? What was the score?
Jeff certainly displayed all the talents that we talked about earlier as the match was beginning.
And we still have one match in progress, ladies and gentlemen.
He's going to have to wait now for the winner of the Davenport Breedlove.
I think Jeff's got an excellent chance to win the tournament. You got to like the way the guy's playing, Mark.
They certainly showed that match that he's playing as well, if not better than anybody in the tournament. Here comes Jeff now.
Jeff, congratulations. I want to say that Mark and I are really proud of the composure you displayed throughout the course of that match. And in retrospect, I attribute your nice win there to 3 things. First of all, you broke and ran out 3 times out of 11 to Earl's 0%. Secondly, your safety play was sterling. You made some great safeties. Everything you did was common sense. And the third thing, very importantly, and we touched on it at the beginning of the match, Mark and I both gave you the edge in good attitude. And you stayed composed and played like a world champion. You played a Buddy Hall type match, or let's phrase it differently, a very solid Jeff Carter type win. And we give you an excellent chance to win the tournament from this point.
Well, I started out that match. I was real nervous, and I always have a hard time when I'm playing him for some reason or another. But I just felt like the main thing I wanted to do was just keep my composure. I don't care how bad I played. The match isn't over until he gets 11. And so that's about all that was going through my mind. I've been in a slump for about the past 6 or 7 months, so hopefully I'm starting to come out of it.
You certainly chose some terrific position paths there. You went 4 rails a couple times when a lot of players would have thought about going 2 or only saw 2 rails. And every time that you played it that way, it worked out to where the next few balls that remained on the table were very easy for you.
Well, I don't know. I don't remember those shots. All I know is that I just play it how I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a shot. If it's 4 rails, that's the way I'm going to play it.
Well, I think noteworthy is the fact that we gave you the edge in position too. I think your straight pool knowledge helps a lot, and you're a very methodical, common sense type player, and that showed up in this match. You played great position, and you played with confidence.
Well, sometimes I think I should be more colorful, but I would rather be methodical and win than be colorful and lose.
Well, I don't think you're an uncolorful player. Certainly, you're a popular player. A lot of people have grown to enjoy Jeff Carter matches. Certainly, if you admire professionalism and the proper way of playing pocket billiards, they could find no better person to emulate.
Well, thank you very much. That's I consider that a high compliment coming from you, Grady. So thank you.
Well, we mean it. It's well deserved, and we wish you the best of luck in the remainder of this event. Get in there and keep up the good work.
I tell you what, I'm trying, boy. I'm trying.
Go get him, Jeff, and good luck.
Well, if ever there were a perfect example of good attitude and stick-to-itiveness, Jeff Carter certainly illustrated it here this afternoon, Mark.
Yeah, that was a delightful match to watch, and anybody that sees that tape is going to certainly learn a lot about the fine points of 9-ball. And Grady, once again, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Well, it's been my pleasure, Mark. We had a little fun here this afternoon, and we talked a little bit about it. I admire courage, knowledge, everything that Jeff Carter showed here this afternoon. I admire it all, and I'm looking forward to watching his next match.
Me too. And
Okay.
that'll be about it.
With that, we can call it a wrap, I reckon.
Okay.